We are about to see another major firing in the White House, and it is all because of Donald Trump's health problems. Now, I'm not talking about his physical and cognitive health problems, no, although we are going to talk about those in a very unsettling report about Donald Trump and his many doctors later in this video, so do stick around. No, I'm talking about Donald Trump's health policy problems that have only been exacerbated by the fact that Elon Musk, the world's first trillionaire, tore up so much of our public health with the cuts he made while running Doge. Now, this has contributed to a larger problem that has only been made worse by RFK Jr. sleeping on the job or deliberately undermining our public health system. And that is why we are about to see the latest firing at the White House. Now, I want to get into that reporting, into that news, but it all starts with how the White House generally is unsettled. Everyone at each other's throats, and the knives are out. It's where we're going to begin before we get to RFK and the latest bombshell news out of the White House. Chaos in the White House as Donald Trump has knives out is on the warpath, furiously lashing out at advisors, allies, and Senate Republicans alike as his second term spirals downward in a cascade of self-inflicted defeats and political miscalculations. According to Politico, based on interviews with Trump allies, GOP Senate aides, and people close to the White House, the president has become increasingly frustrated with everyone, from his own team to the Senate. He's pissed, and people are not recognizing the level of piss that he is, a MAGA operative close to the White House told Politico's playbook. The operative pointed to specific grievances fueling Donald Trump's resentment, Senate Republicans' opposition to his $1.8 billion anti-weaponization fund, resistance to the White House ballroom funding, which always makes me laugh, and the refusal to fire the Senate parliamentarian. The chaos is creeping back, one ally told Politico, describing an administration fracturing under the weight of Trump's volcanic temperament and mounting political losses. Is it a surprise to anyone that this White House is in chaos? All of the people who joined this administration didn't do so because a similar stated goal of service to this country. They did so to serve themselves. And a lot of the time, self-serving comes into conflict with other people's self-serving, especially when you have to prioritize Donald Trump's ability to profit off the presidency as the number one thing, corruption in any form number two, and then I guess getting his family and kids rich number three. So yeah, people are going to be fighting. Donald Trump's terrible policy choices and plans, they're going to backfire. Everyone will get blamed and everyone will be annoyed with each other. This is what happens when you put the worst people in the world in government. So no one should be surprised. And again, that focus on self is so important here because everyone has their own individual goal. And that's been very clear with RFK Jr., who's not even doing his job. That should have surprised no one. But it's part of the reason for the reporting that we're going to get into. Kennedy shows minimal engagement with a vast health portfolio. Health Secretary Robert Kennedy Jr. has demonstrated little interest in managing his sprawling department as he focuses on food and vaccine policy. Shortly after the WHO organization declared the Ebola outbreak in Africa a public health emergency, a reporter asked RFK Jr. if he was worried about the virus 6 Americans had already been exposed to. His response was brief: "Yeah, we're working on it." In the nearly 3 weeks since, as the Center for Disease Control and Prevention imposed travel restrictions to keep the virus from coming to the United States, Mr. Kennedy has made no public comments about the spreading of the outbreak. Mr. Kennedy's approach to the crisis reflects the broader management of the Department of Health and Human Services, which affects the health of 340 million Americans and provides health care to 40% of the population. Mr. Kennedy has shown little interest in managing the details of his work in the department, according to multiple colleagues. Deeply mistrustful of career civil officials, the secretary has surrounded himself with a close circle of hand-picked advisors and stacked agencies with political appointees aligned with his views. He rarely engages with members of Congress, colleagues have said, unless he is asked to testify. He has made just one known visit to the CDC, and that was after a gunman opened fire on its headquarters. So RFK Jr. isn't doing his job at a time in which it really couldn't be more important that we had a person of substance who not only knew what they were doing, but cared about the work at HHS. But that is not the case right now. And Donald Trump can only deal with so many people disinterested in doing their job and only serving themselves. And by the way, for massive profits in the case of RFK Jr. So new reporting is talking about what shakeup might come next
Salon's
at the White House columnist Brian Karem reported that while White House Press Secretary Carolyn Leavitt has been on leave, the Trump administration has been auditioning different guest hosts, cabinet members in the press room, including Vice President J.D. Vance, Secretary of State Marco Rubio, Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent, and of course, Dr. Mehmet Oz, the administrator or the Centers of Medicare and Medicaid Services. Oz is now being rumored to be a potential replacement for RFK Jr. It's unheard of for cabinet members or the vice president to take such a lowly job, Karem wrote. Maybe Dr. Mehmet Oz getting tasked with it's somewhat more appropriate. Of course, rumor has it that Oz became a substitute host because he's auditioning for the Health and Human Services job currently held by RFK Jr. Oz took the podium on June 2nd and, as Karem pointed out, walked in like studio head Jack Woltz in The Godfather and was obviously enamored with himself. He said he was stunned at how healthy Trump is. The amount of energy and the amount of mental acuity does not exist in a vacuum. Wow, what a great use of the president's time, going in and taking tests that he supposedly aces. But this is a very real possibility. RFK Jr. creating problems for Donald Trump, creating bad headlines, and just like when that guy passed out in the Oval Office, quite literally running away from them. He does not answer questions. He makes things worse for Donald Trump, especially with a new outbreak affecting cattle in Texas, one of the states Donald Trump is most worried about losing in these upcoming midterms. James Tallarico being able to run against not just Trump, but RFK Jr.'s failures that have sent beef prices skyrocketing in the most important beef state in the country. Like, is there a place in the world maybe where more cattle isn't consumed than Texas? Like, I was just there. Barbecue is a way of life, baby, and RFK Jr. is standing in the way of that. So why wouldn't Donald Trump want a guy who his voice doesn't sound like, shrapnel going through a paper shredder? Like, why wouldn't he want someone a little bit more charismatic? I don't love Dr. Oz, but he's certainly a little more charismatic figure, a real communicator to go out there to try to calm things down. This makes sense. And it makes sense why this is now a rumor of RFK Jr. getting fired. All he does is talk about the color of Skittles and push anti-vax conspiracy. And if Dr. Oz is attempting to get the job by flattering Donald Trump and saying that he's the healthiest person in the world, that's a really smart move. Like, unfortunately, that's what plays. That's the qualification that you need to be in this government. You have to have a degree, a PhD in kiss-assery. And especially as a medical professional, Dr. Oz can be like, well, he's just the healthiest I've never seen. It's incredible. It's immaculate. How could anyone else be healthier? But if Donald Trump really loves the tests, maybe that's an explanation of why there are so many tests being done. It's not a good one. It's not a believable one, but they're certainly going to have to come up with one, given new White House reporting, or leaks out of the White House reporting about those leaks, about how many medical specialists Donald Trump is seeing, a record number. And this is pretty disturbing.